Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bullberry Show. Today we're diving into a game that's been in my library for a while now, Battlefield 1. I've always been a fan of historical settings, so it seemed like the perfect choice to start with a World War I game for this video. Let's get into what it's offering as of 2024. First of all, this is not a new game by any means. Battlefield 1 was released 8 years ago, almost to the day. Developed by DICE and published by EA, it was a bold move to step away from modern or futuristic settings and tackle the grittiness of World War I. The game received some, controversial feedback in the beginning. But hey, it's alive, and now is deemed to be one of the best of all times in the series. For the installation, it started off fine. I mean, you can easily buy it off Steam for a hefty discount of like 90%, which is good. However, right after that, the EA launcher kicks in. Straight away, -3 points for the registration process. It's a bit of a hassle to get the game into a playable condition. Yes, it's a one-time exercise, but even then, this exercise is painful. Just too much setup to launch, and it definitely killed some of my initial excitement. But wait, then almost 100 gigabytes adds on top. I'm a bit old school in terms of managing free space, and even though I bought a separate terabyte SSD for making these videos, for a single game, it feels like a bit much. Anyway, let's break it down. Even before the tutorial, the game kicks off with this opening mini-event that feels like a full-on cinematic experience. It really draws you in. It sets the mood of despair, showing that you're not getting out of this war alive. And it's a great representation of the horrors of war. These first 5 minutes add at least 1 point to the chef's kiss right off the bat. But then the campaign comes along, and that's where things get weird. You can solo dozens of enemies, which doesn't feel quite right for a game that's supposed to give you the intensity of World War I. Yet if you can forgive the Rambo vibe, the campaign does serve as a well-rounded tutorial. I completed 2 or 3 operations, and despite the super soldier feeling, I got used with the controls and overall gameplay. After we're set and done, it's time for what we're all here for, multiplayer. And initially, it went well. The fast-paced yet brutal gameplay brings you back to the vibe of the intro, which is great. What's not great is the questionable matchmaking. I know it's hard to perfectly match players of similar skill with teams that huge, but you can easily find yourself as a rank 1 or 2 facing rank 150 enemies. They have all the weapons, all the skill, and they use it against you mercilessly. I really wanted to make the whole footage of me being slaughtered over and over. Some matches were decent, while others, I did 0 kills and got wiped repeatedly. I've also probably never was positive in my kill-death ratio. The matchmaking seems pretty inconsistent at times, and I found myself questioning how the balance works, but the answer is probably simple. It just doesn't work at all. You're all in the same pool. Get good or get wrecked. As for the community, I've seen a bit of toxicity, but surprisingly, no griefing. Not even in modes like War Pigeons, where it could have easily happened. So I guess that's a plus. On the downside, the chat can be pretty toxic at times, and friendly fire is sometimes infuriating in these said War Pigeons mode. But to be honest, I probably contributed to the problem since I killed more teammates than they killed me. So I was not locked with them, they were locked with me. Once you get the hang of the weapons and find the role that suits you, the game feels great. I have to admit that after 5 or so hours, I caught myself thinking, this is a game I want to keep playing after I make the video footage. But I also have to admit that after 10 hours, I started feeling like it's just too demanding for me. After 2 hours in one sitting on one of the evenings, I was wiped out. The gameplay is just too intense. I remember playing the first Battlefield back in the day, on a local LAN with maybe 10 players on each side at best, and it was way more forgiving. Here, there's no time to relax, no time to enjoy the beautiful surroundings, and honestly, it's not the kind of game I want to unwind with after a long day at work. Speaking of the surroundings, the graphics are stunning, no question about it. The textures might look a bit clunky if you stop and stare at them, especially the ground, but the winter landscapes and the Russian maps are just magnificent, which is impressive for a game that's 8 years old. However, remember, if you stand still, you die, so you will have no time to have a proper look. And when you're running or shooting, you don't really have time to admire the scenery anyway. But with great graphics comes greater demand on your hardware, so be prepared for your system to work a little harder. I can't complain about overall performance. It was consistent with 50-60 FPS, though sometimes it dropped to around 30 FPS during heavy action in open areas. So it sounds promising. A good game with fast but brutal gameplay. Getting 2 or 3 frags feels amazing. But now, let's get into the downsides, because almost every pro has its corresponding con. Queues for popular modes are non-existent, even at odd times like early Monday mornings, which is great for such an old game. However, this only applies to the 2 most used modes. Operations, which is basically an assault on several points of interest with silly names, and Pigeons, a hardcore mode where you send messages via carrier pigeons. These modes are solid, hands down. But let's say I had a quest to complete a deathmatch. I joined, and after half an hour of waiting, I saw no other players. This happened over 2 days. I checked rest 7 modes, and they are essentially dead, regardless of peak hours like weekends and evenings. There's a lot of action in the 2 active modes, but the game is clearly being somewhat abandoned by the player base. It's not a huge issue for a game this old, but it's frustrating to only be able to play 2 modes out of 10. Now, let's talk about loot boxes. The ones I've seen seem to only contain cosmetics. Nothing game-changing, which is a relief. Plus, the current all-in-one edition, whatever its name is, costs less than $10 on sale and gives you a lot of them. I even got 27 loot boxes awarded for things I hadn't done. Free stuff is free stuff, right? But then comes the pain from success. Don't get me started on the animations. They're slow, and after a while they become more annoying than rewarding. In addition, I then checked my inventory, and oh well, I have not received even 10% of the stuff that is in the game. You want more? You pay more, as easy as that. And let's say you've opened everything, what's next? That's where the grind wall jumps in. Yes, there is definitely one, and shortcut kits for up to $40 exist for a reason. You have to complete class challenges and collect war bonds to unlock all the weapons. It's not impossible, but it definitely drags on, especially if you're hoping to unlock everything. And if you're a noob with bad aim, it's inevitable. I completed some of the challenges without even trying, but after 10 hours, I only reached level 6. Guess how many weapons I could buy with the 450 war bonds I earned during that time? 2. 2 goddamn weapons, even though no weapon will make you a pro. It's ridiculous. Pay up or grind for dozens of hours to get access to the full arsenal. And again, this does not include cosmetics. They are extra. Another frustration? Vehicles. I was lucky enough to get into a plane once, but I also was stupid enough to get ejected mid-air in the first 10 seconds of deployment. After that, I never got the chance to control any kind of vehicle, not even a horse. And to top it off, the interface is far from intuitive. Cosmetics are in one place, weapons are in another, and there are different currencies scattered everywhere. And for some reason, after you are killed, deploying back into a match requires at least 2 clicks, which is just annoying. Again, I might be too stupid to figure out how to streamline it, but the overall solution seems unnecessary. On the bright side, you don't need any third-party programs or databases, which is a relief. As for cheaters, I didn't encounter them, or at least, not any obvious ones. But some players have insanely good aim, and without replays, it's hard to tell if they're just that skilled, or if something more suspicious is going on. For the chef's kiss, just my purely subjective take. I enjoyed Battlefield 1 overall. It's a solid game, even today. Before said will not be repeated, but the last honorary mention goes to the sound design and music. Beautifully atmospheric, nothing unnecessary. But I keep thinking, if I had bought it back in the day for full price, I'd probably be a lot more critical. Paying full price plus any extra fees for unlocks would have been a different story than grabbing it now for $10 and quitting after a few hours. All in all, Battlefield 1 is a nice game, but it's not the game for me. That doesn't make it bad though. So the score is the highest on this channel so far, 77 out of 100. As a side note, I also remember the backlash when the game was first announced and the overall negativity surrounding its trailer. But now, with more than 100,000 reviews and a solid 86% positive rating, it's clear the game has stood the test of time. The developers didn't abandon it, and that's commendable, even if I don't see much of a future for it now. But hey, 8 years is a long time, especially when modern games get abandoned after 2 weeks. Yes, Concord, I'm looking at you. So that's my take on Battlefield 1. The game has its moments, but it's definitely showing its age in terms of vanishing community and soft-locked content caused by that. Thanks for tuning in to the Bullberry Show. If you liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment on which game I should check out next. See you in the next episode.